Good afternoon. My name is Blair Williams. I am here at the Cumberland County Historical Society on November 8th, 2022 with Eleanor Sweet. Although you were saying your nickname is Ellie.
Yes,
So, all right.
yes. So if this is formal, you may call Eleanor. If not, it's Ellie.
Well, I like to think of this as a mix of both, but
Okay,
so we'll
okay.
go where we need to.
Okay.
So I'll start off by asking Eleanor, where were you born and raised?
Born and raised born in Taylor, Pennsylvania, which is northeast of Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, up towards what we call the coal region.
Okay.
And was born and raised in Duryea, Pennsylvania, which is what we call the coal region between Pittston, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. Nice little small town.
And so this is a combination of both sort of getting to know you as well as your experiences with St. Patrick's Church here in Carlisle. So my first question is sort of a little bit getting to know you is what were your earliest memories of going to church?
Singing in the choir and going to the church picnics and catechism once a week.
And was this, I'm just going to close the door here, was that in that Wilkes-Barre Scranton area?
Duryea is where I was born and raised.
So was that in that area then?
Yes.
Going to church?
That was when they had a church on every corner, and I'm going back many, many, many years.
Yes.
So you have to realize how many years before you think, well, really? No.
Sure.
Many years. In Duryea, Pennsylvania, with a bar room and a church on just about every corner.
And was this a Catholic church?
Catholic church, yes.
Were your parents Catholic?
Yes, yes.
And so you mentioned that your first memory is singing in the choir. Is that your predominant memory of your childhood experience? Or?
Well, since there were 12 in our family, and I had many brothers and sisters, you really didn't pay too much attention to what you were doing when you were little, except playing and growing up and going to school. And
Sure.
And then finally, church was always first most, and singing in the choir is my last, my latest memories of living there.
Well, how did you find yourself in Cumberland County and Carlisle or the nearby area?
Because once anyone in our family graduated from high school, we all went our own separate ways to get a job. And I went to the Poconos and met my husband, who just got out of the military and was waiting a call to go to the State Police Academy. So as soon as that happened, we moved to Carlisle area where he was stationed when he went through the training of state police.
Okay. And so I'm assuming shortly after that, you became a member or started going to St. Patrick's Church?
After 3 children, because my ties were with the first child was primarily with my sister and my other family members up in the Pocono areas, and also Duryea, where my parents still lived. And after that, after the third child, and not having much time to go to mass or get connected in the church, because my husband worked constantly as a state trooper 6 days a week, very little time off, and he was very dedicated to his job. So as you know, police work is never finished. It just doesn't end when they get home. So as soon as my children all went to school, then we both got very, very involved with anything they were involved in. And that's how we got connected with St. Patrick's Church, because they went to the school there when it was on Pomfret Street.
Well, that was my next question was, what do you remember about the Shrine Church, as it's called?
Beautiful. And it was the most awesome church. like any Catholic church, if you walk into any Catholic church,
Mhm.
there's a beauty and a silence and an awesome that you just experience every time you go into church. And I
Was
love it.
it similar to the church up in Duryea?
Duryea,
Yeah.
they all have their own beauty because that's when all the altars were very, very ornate and
Yep.
beautiful, and all the statues. Yes, and candles and
Yeah.
everything.
Well, so was there anything memorable about Mass at the Shrine Church, or just that sense of? Yeah.
Just the sense of going to church, and it's hard to explain other than my children or my boys were altar boys, and you get really, once I'm a person that gets involved whenever the children, both Bill and I did everything with
Yep.
them. So as growing up with the children, not too much time for sometimes even going to mass, but I was everything we did was connected with the church until they went to public school. And then
Mhm.
those activities became public with the school they went to.
Well, just for clarification, do you know roughly around when you started going to St. Pat's?
Mm-hmm. No, no, no. 1960. Yes, I had a visit from, I'm trying to remember her name when she came to visit. I had the two boys a year apart, so she came to visit and something about church. And all I remember is holding the baby, the second baby, a year apart, and to welcome me into the church. And no way.
Yeah.
Because at that time it was just to get to church, and basically a lot of the people, the areas I've ever lived in were non-Catholics,
Mhm.
but I got to know a lot of people that went to various churches. So I waited my time to be able to go.
And were you living in sort of downtown Carlisle at this point, or a little bit outside?
Hoaxtown, it was our
Yeah.
first appointment, and then the second move was into Carlisle area.
So yeah, so Hoaxtown would have been a little bit of a commute to
Yeah,
St.
but
Pat's.
being new to the area, my husband just took the same or first apartment he looked at so
Sure.
that we could move. And then our third place where we built a house in Plainfield, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yeah. So you just kept moving further west.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, so from the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like church played much of a role in your family's daily life until your children were a little bit older.
Well, when you're, there were so many activities that and they receive baptism,
Mhm.
Holy Communion, confirmation, weddings, everything, because growing up, you grow with them. And so when they went to confirmation class, first communion class, involved in all the church activities, and that meant parties for every occasion. And we loved it. And many of our friends were also state troopers, and the godparents were also state trooper families. So we became one big connected family. And when the children were little and going to St. Pat's school, we volunteered for everything.
One of the things that I've heard about with other individuals was St. Pat's, when it was still downtown, used to have these big community parties. Do you remember those? Or
Yes, my friend and I, Claire, when our children were little,
Mhm.
worked in the cafeteria
Oh,
downstairs in Carlisle, St. Patrick's
yep.
in the basement. And so you got to see your children, you got to volunteer for everything. And at that time, there wasn't much money that a Catholic school could do what public schools do. So there was always someone that we found that would volunteer for just about anything.
Sure.
and very active in sports with the children, and going to the games. And Bill was always, well, we just, there's just so much that you do with your children in Catholic school,
Mhm.
and you volunteer for everything.
Well, I remember when we spoke on the phone last week, you mentioned sports being such an important
Sports,
role.
yes. The children, like, um, let's see. Also within Catholic school, there, like I said, not much money, but we got one of our lawyer friends to teach phys ed
Mhm.
for the school. And then the boys and a lot of other people started the booster program, the sports program, and all the parents and all their children. And we built the first football field at Marsh Drive.
Oh,
And that was, my husband took a week off of vacation, learned how to use a bulldozer. And all of the members that were on the booster team were all out there doing the field, fixing the field, and building the field. And those were the most exciting times because Bill was coach for basketball. He and Elmer Hodge from Carlisle.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they used to practice in Carlisle gyms whenever they could get a time to practice because we had no gym. And so those were there was so much going on throughout their life at Catholic school. And I taught CCD and confirmation classes, and then we worked in a cafeteria, and we used to have festivals in the summertime in the macadam driveways and the parking lot and the school lot. So those were great, great memories. And in addition to that, it was always the priests that were always so, so great, and the nuns. And then eventually that stopped after so many years because there weren't many. And we lived too far away for the children to go to Trinity.
Well, that was something that when you were discussing all that, but you mentioned your husband helped build the field at Marsh Drive.
Mhm.
But I was wondering, was there a shift in terms of I I don't know the exact question to ask, but did you find there was a shift in maybe the culture from the move from Pomfret to Marsh Drive, or was it still?
No, because as a church, you realized Pomfret Street Church, it's the Shrine Church that as the years went by, more and more and more people came. And it's hard to have one church. And then it was Father Fontanella's dream to build the Marsh Drive Church,
Yep.
and then the activity center for the children. So that was foremost in just about everyone's dream, to find a place for the children.
Well, you talked a little bit about Father Fontanella, and I'm wondering who are some of the other pastors that you remember and
My
some
God.
stories about them, or is it mainly?
Father Fontanella was the first, yes, he was great, and all the priests we had, and at that time, we just it was hard to get to know any of them because everyone is so busy. But we worked with everyone. They were all nice, as we remember. You hear different stories, but you concentrated on your children and your faith and your what was going on with what we were doing.
Yeah.
And there were so many, many great uh, priests that we met or that we had at one time or another, and they were always there to help whenever.
Well, one of the things that I learned recently was that it's not just Pomfret Street with the Shrine Church and Marsh Drive, but there's also, you know, at one point that the parish was also responsible for a church in Newville, and then there's the St. Regina Chapel at Pine Grove, and then also in Perry County. Did you ever have any experience with those other outlying or?
Just attending all of them, except for the church in Newville, where it was in someone's house,
Mhm.
but we had the church in Carlisle.
Yep.
So we didn't have to do that. But and Eleanor Regina Chapel is just awesome
Yeah.
because it's in the woods and it's open, but it's also a ride. So, you know, everything was centered going back and forth to Carlisle.
Sure.
Because even when the kids went to public school in Big Spring,
Mhm.
everything was still done in Carlisle, but Big Spring also had the sports program.
Okay.
And so it took my children a while to get used to a non-Catholic school, you know.
Sure.
But that's why we had the Shrine Church, because there's two places where you could light candles. So depending on what was going on, so you light those candles and take turns on each side. So that's what, when you're raising 3 teenagers, that was the best place for me. Bill was still always working,
Yeah.
but he made sure he came home on time for practice or whatever was going on. He was there, but also was a great, great person and a policeman and everything else.
It sounds it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you mentioned that you especially when your kids were attending the parish school that you helped out quite a bit, and you mentioned also helping out with CCD. Do you have any memories that stand out to you in terms of helping out with the ministries or committees or other volunteering?
No, not really, other than um I think it's it's great the way if teachers could do it. I was just a volunteer.
Yeah,
So it's hard for me to I liked it. I loved it, but I remember
but it just
see
all sort of blurs together.
no, but why do I only remember the things that not later on when it's funny. So
Sure.
okay, I took the kids to the during CCD, took the kids to a nursing home and you arrange all that,
Mhm.
right? So me being a novice, and I said, had my friend come and I said, bring your children because her one son was going to CCD. So we get to the nursing home and all the people come in and they're all sitting in a circle. And I just thought we are there to talk with them. The
Yeah.
children from the class were to go talk to them. No, we were supposed to sing or do whatever. So my girlfriend got her daughter to play the piano that was there, and we sang. But that's how prepared I was for that. I was not prepared, but we laughed about it.
Yeah.
And I laugh. There's so many things we did laugh about.
Well, you mentioned volunteering in the cafeteria with Claire.
Mhm.
Are there any stories about Claire that you remember, or other
Oh my God.
other people
I
that you
can't.
worked with?
Those are in my memories and Claire's memories, and Claire died. But all I can say is we had some great times. Yeah. And there were some things I couldn't tell you,
Sure.
but it was all in fun and jest, and no one ever, ever got hurt, you know?
There you go.
And we loved doing what we did.
Well, yeah, I remember speaking with Claire, and you could tell her love for the church and for
She was
volunteering.
amazing. Whenever I had a problem, that's the first person I would go to because I knew it would not go any further,
Sure.
and we could laugh about it. But we'd always check in about it too. You interviewed Claire?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
bless her heart. Yeah.
And she was.
Was it a while before she died?
Again. It
Is
was
that the
about-
one you're saying?
It
Oh
was about a
God.
month before.
Oh yes. That. Oh wow.
So
That's sad. Okay, sorry about that.
no.
Because she was amazing and I remember she was with me the whole time with Bill when he was sick and he died. We've gone through a lot together, only sharing,
Yep.
but fun times, good times.
But yeah, she was. She had a lot of interesting and great things to say. So I was happy to be able to talk with her.
Oh God, yeah, she was amazing. And she always said she was ready to go anytime.
Yep. That's what she
Didn't,
told me.
it didn't matter what age she was ready to go.
Yeah, she said after she finished raising her kids,
Yes.
the only thing she wanted to
Yes, and she had a lot of grandchildren,
Yep.
and it was time for her to go because she was tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I know one of the biggest events in St. Pat's history was that move to Marsh Drive. And but I'm wondering, were there other events or church issues you remember that stand out to you?
Uh, hmm. Well, Marsh Drive, any church or the new church was remarkable, and they had many, many fundraisers for the new church,
Mhm.
and everyone did wonderful to make it what it is today. And so, um, I was a joiner for just about anything or whatever, and was very happy to have a place to have meetings once the pack was built. And actually have, well, we didn't get a closet. We got a tiny, tiny place to put, this was through with the Heritage Club. Because as soon as a few people from Dickinson College retired, Father Forey got someone to take over the presidency and start a formal Heritage Club Society within the church. And everyone uses it now, and it's wonderful. And I've always been involved in many things there through the years, but right now it's just a hospitality committee that does funeral luncheons. And we have a great team of helpers, and everyone loves to volunteer.
Yeah.
That's one thing about St. Patrick's, regardless of who's there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we're here today. Is thanks to some of the archives committee volunteers. So
Yeah. Yeah. You volunteer?
I'm not, but I
Okay.
used to work with Debbie. She used to work here at the Historical Society.
Yes, yes, yeah. She's amazing. She's very nice. She's one of our members and always donates when we have luncheons and stuff. And we've talked a few times. I remember in the catacombs when she had an office. God, she's really come a long way.
Yeah. Well, I know um, different pastors have always had different feelings about sort of working in the community, and I'm wondering, were there any community issues that you remember being involved with or hearing about over the years
With the church?
with it, or just generally?
Are you looking for something
No, just whatever
specific?
stories you have.
I,
If you can't remember anything, that's fine too.
um, I don't think so. I don't think so, other than, I don't know. I wouldn't think so. You know, you can't go by, in a sense, sometimes you hear stories is what we call gossip,
Mm-hmm.
or who says what, or, and not anyone really fully understanding what actually happened, and being who we are, it wasn't necessary because we still had our church.
Yeah.
And we had our priests and the community of everyone that belonged to the church. So I can't remember, and if I did, I probably would not tell you anyway.
That's all right.
Only because I can't think of anything that was bad enough that would,
Well,
not
necessarily
bad, but just different, but like there many things over the years that a lot of churches had or did, and when COVID came, a lot of things changed, and I think a lot of people did have a hard time
Yeah.
because it wasn't, you didn't have the community anymore.
Well, that kind of gets to my next question, and just how is your and I always have a tough time asking this because I don't know. It's a little hard, I guess, for me to understand in some sense and to
Okay.
convey it. But how has your faith journey influenced your life over the years? And I guess what I mean by that is sort of how is your, I guess, history with your or interaction with your faith sort of impacted your life over the years?
greatly, because without the faith, what else would we have?
Mhm.
And the trust in God, and regardless what happens, we have the church and God, and we have the priests, and we have the people.
Mhm.
And so that God will never change, and the church will still be there, hopefully.
Yeah.
But the faith has always been, because without the faith, I don't know where I would be today.
And this leads to sort of the final question that I have here, and that's: was there a time that faith played a particularly important role in your life?
Yes, every day of my life played a role, because I wouldn't be here if I didn't have that faith and that strength, and knowing that
Mhm.
it's going, the things that you worry about, or like just getting married, having children, raising the children, and going through all the, when you live long enough, you would say you've experienced just about enough that you were able to handle. And I don't know what would be worse, other than losing our country.
Mhm.
And God, yeah, God first. And so I can't imagine. All I know is through strength and prayer, you always say, wow, that wasn't too bad, but it was tough, you know?
Mhm. Well, that's all I have in terms of the questions here. But I always like to ask: is there anything I should have asked or that you want to mention before we end?
No, I'll think about that when I'm sleeping tonight, when I can't sleep.
Well, you can pass those questions along to Debbie, or those answers along to Debbie.
I don't know, but what what were you expecting? I mean, what would you like to hear? I mean, what?
I don't expect anything. So sometimes they're just questions that I'm not informed enough to ask. It could have been about I don't know, any number of things.
What, because of your age?
No, just because I'm not a member of St. Pat's, so there are questions that I just don't know to ask. Or sometimes people, they have other things that they specifically want to mention in the
Oh,
course of the interview that we didn't
okay.
get to.
Mhm. All I know is I've attended many different churches throughout my whole life. I remember growing up, and all the kids some of the kids in the neighborhood, they had Bible school. I always wanted to go to their Bible school.
Yeah.
We never had Bible school. I just had, growing up, it was just catechism once a week when the nuns would come to the rectory or the church hall. And also for weddings and funerals and just about anything else in other churches. I loved every one of them. I liked every one of them. And I thought they were doing a wonderful job, and the people were happy. And they do a lot of the same things we do, with the exception of communion, which we have.
You raised two questions, or maybe that have now popped up in my head.
Uh-huh.
One of them is, in other discussions with people that we've had um, for the course of this project, they've mentioned sort of this anti-Catholic bias that used to exist in Carlisle and maybe still does. I But I'm wondering if that was something that you experienced when you first came here to Carlisle.
No. Because, no, because when we moved to Hoaxtown, and I was alone with the baby, and Bill was working, I went across the street and knocked on the door and said hi. And I forget what church they belonged to, but I've never, ever, wherever we moved, because I'm not, we just always made great friends, and religion was never an issue.
Sure.
They went to that church, we went to our church, but I mean, it never,
Yeah.
ever, and I never witnessed any bias, because I loved seeing other people and or their churches and what they do. And we have a place up north, and our neighbors are the best ever. I've gone to church with them, and there, you know, you can get your coffee and sit down and listen to and
Yeah.
the singing and everything. It's so different than ours, but it was still Sunday and it was wonderful, you know?
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, they are so, they're just like we are, and I am. I've never
Yeah,
been,
and then the other question that is related, and it's kind of two parts. But how has both St. Pat's changed since you came here in the 1960s, as well as sort of Carlisle and Cumberland County changed?
well, see, I think the church never changes. It's who comes next. And every person that comes afterwards has their way, but that person, the priest on the altar is the same regardless of where they are.
Okay,
The only thing that may change is the way they do anything
sure.
or relate to the people or, you know, the programs they have for the
Yeah.
community. And that's a tough job. It's almost like the government. You
Yeah.
have a problem, talk about it. Tell someone, call the pastor, do anything, or
Mhm.
tell the group. But nothing is ever that bad. I don't think that I don't know because I tend to think I laugh a lot when I get giddy, you know. No, seriously.
It's not. That's fine.
It's because my faith is very, very private
Sure.
at home
Yep.
and in church. And first thing I do every Sunday morning is go down and see my friends and we yak and whatever. And yeah, it's so great to see everyone. But I know all the other churches, I know nothing about them other than
Sure.
when you pass some of them and you hear that singing, certain churches, I've gone to different um, events that other churches have,
Yep.
and I've never ever experienced anything. Not that I can remember.
Well, no, I was just asking.
No, but seriously, I don't know because I'm not involved with.
Sure.
I only know that they are probably as spiritual and as happy as anyone else, regardless of what church you belong to.
Well, that is all I had. So thank you so much, Ellie, for coming in and speaking today and sharing some great stories about St. Pat's.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Blair. So.
Yeah, my pleasure.